There are many parts of misinformation about wireless technology, and today we're going to get to the root and the crux of everything that we currently can realise about how the wireless is going to continue happening in Australia. So I'd like to invite Jeff MacKenzie. Tony, Factory Sound TV.
How you doing?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good.
Now,
welcome to the Jands stand.
Thank you very much. Of course, Integrate 2010, and it's a perfect time to ask, what's the latest with what's happening in the UHF spectrum?
Nice question. I wish I had a nice answer for you. The honest answer is we don't know. It's all in the hands of government, and I know that sounds like a cop-out, but where we're at is the Department of Broadband Communications and the Digital Economy, that's a mouthful for you, has identified an area of spectrum that they intend to auction off, which is 694 megahertz to 820 megahertz. So
now
pretty much
say auction that off, that would be auctioned off to, that's our available space or proposed available space?
Well, that's roughly, I wish I had a document here to show you, but that's roughly around 1/3 of the UHF broadcast spectrum, okay? So in Australia, wireless mics share the television spectrum along with television broadcasters. We can currently work anywhere in the range 520 megahertz through to 820 megahertz as a secondary user. Obviously, we can't operate on the same channels that the television boys are operating on. So the proposal is that 694 through to 820 gets auctioned off, so it's no longer available for us or for television. So we all have to shuffle down below 694 megahertz. So effectively lose 1/3 of our available spectrum. It'll most likely be bought by telcos. They're cashed up and they need the spectrum. So, you know, people like Telstra, Optus, Vodafone, maybe some new startups, we don't know. And possibly even there's been talk of it being used for the final mile of the proposed NBN. You know, for areas where they can't get fibre direct to the home, then they'll pick up that last section with the wireless spectrum. And
when do you imagine that we're going to find out finally, and all the guesswork will have an answer?
That's the million-dollar question. The digital green paper was announced on, I'm looking down at my notes here, on the 24th of June was when they identified the spectrum they want to use. They didn't identify the timeline of when it will go to auction. This is what we're still trying to find out. We don't know. Our best guess, what we do know, is that the transition from analogue television to digital television, which is what frees up this spectrum, all the capital cities have to be finished by December 2013. Right? That is the changeover date for the last transition. And we're currently in there already. Mildura's already changed over, right? So it's a phased changeover. So all the capitals, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, 31st December 2013 is when their analogue shuts off. So it can't be before then, right? So we know it can't be before December 31, 2013. Whether they decide to auction it and make it available on that day or have a transition period, we don't know. We're still in talks with government to find that out.
Okay, so what we do know is that it's definitely going to happen. There's going to be UHF frequencies freed up and then purchased by the telcos. We don't know what those frequencies that they're going to purchase are going to be, but we do know that there are going to be available frequencies for what we do.
Well, yes and no. I mean, what we do know is 694 to 820 will go, right? That's a given. That's been stated. Unfortunately, that is roughly, based on our sort of numbers that we get from industry sources, about 70 to 80% of the existing wireless microphones are in that band. So it's bad news for existing users.
And that does beg the question, I'll throw this one in halfway through that answer. What do you do when you're in that position? And this might not go to air. No, we want to keep selling microphones
it's a valid. Well, no, for new purchases, below 694, and we've already started doing that.
We're pretty much guaranteed that's safe. Guaranteed is a strong word to use.
There is no guarantees on anything with RF, because what will happen is, yes, that'll be available, but also television is shuffling down there too, right? So what we know is that we will not be able to operate above 694. So we have to fit between 520 and 694, but so does television. So I can tell you that's a safer answer, but I can't give you a 100% guarantee of exactly where in that range is the best option. And it will vary by capital city, because the frequency maps, which haven't been finalised yet for the television transmitters, will vary from capital and region to region. So what's going to happen is eventually, once we know the television allocation map, we're going to have to look at that, look at where the systems need to operate, where the wireless users want to operate, and advise the best frequency range to operate in. Effectively, we're all going to have to lift our game. Suppliers, reps, and retailers. You know, we're not going to be able to get away with the methods we used to use, which was get a system, turn it on, and by sheer luck, it's going to work on a clean frequency because the probability was high. Probability is now going to be lower. So we're going to have to do some research, see where the television is, advise the best frequencies, do some sort of calculations, or a lot of the new products now have got smart scanning technology where you can hit a button and that'll do it for you. So I definitely advise new users to A, get below 694 and try and get into a product that does some sort of smart scan thing where it can help you find clear frequencies.
And having possibly more frequency agile channels available to them so that they...
Absolutely, yeah. The tuning bandwidth of your receiver, which is generally, increases as you go up in price point because it's one of the things that you buy more of. You know, the money does actually buy more performance. The wider that you can switch, the more choices you've got. You know, so if you've got a product that only tunes, say, across 7 megahertz, which is one TV channel, and it ends up that there's a TV channel lands on top of you, well, you've got nowhere to go. Whereas if you've got something that can span 70 megahertz or 10 channels, then you've got a much higher probability of finding clear frequencies.
And I guess at the end of the day, we're still 2.5 years away at earliest from anything happening.
Exactly.
What we're currently using will be unusable.
Exactly. Now, what we don't know, we've already started transitioning new product out of that, have for the last 12 months, as have most of the distributors. So the big problem is existing users. What will happen to them? And unfortunately, we don't have a clear answer to that.
Okay, so that's great advice for the people purchasing from now on. So keep it under 694 and as many frequency agile channels as you can afford, buy them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Jeff, that is a great answer to a
Tom.
difficult question. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
And from us at Integrate 2010, it's cheerio for now. So currently in the UK and the United States, have they got a frequency that they have decided that they are using currently that is going to maintain in the future?
The situation in the UK and the US is quite different. In the US, it's sort of similar to us in that there was a shared access, but there was no wireless mic specific channel, right? So they've auctioned off roughly the same sort of area in the US, what people colloquially would call the 700 meg spectrum. In the UK it was slightly different because they had what they call channel 69, which was a one reserved TV channel that effectively most of the wireless mics operated in, and that's gone as well. So they've got their own issues.
So I guess the question was going to be, if there are people touring, what frequency set should they buy, or is it going to end up, I guess we're still guessing, but is it going to end up having a different thing in every country that they visit?
Well, it kind of was like that already, and I don't see it changing. We overlap slightly with the US market. Their available frequency range started at 470 megahertz, and they only went to 802. We went from 520 to 820, so there was a large overlap, but it's not identical. So that will continue with us in the US. The scenario in other regions is quite different. So there is no sort of magical, we get this request a lot too from people saying, look, I'm touring worldwide and I want a product that I can use in every country. Unfortunately, the answer is there's no such thing. Technically, you really should pick up product to suit the local country, the local regime you're operating in.